Unspoken Issues.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Unspoken Issues podcast. And really, I've got one question for Chris Armstrong. Have you ever seen a turtle get down?
Oh boy.
Yes. If you watched this movie, The Secret of the Ooze, the second in the trilogy from the 90s, March 22nd, 1991, 34 years ago, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles II, Secret of the Ooze, dropped. And by golly, if you didn't know about Vanilla Ice and the Turtles, and have you ever seen a turtle get down, my goodness, you've seen this movie or you've heard the song, one or the other. So Chris, I mean, look, 34 years ago, you already told me you went to the theaters and watched the first one, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't remember if I went because I feel like I didn't. I feel like it was a VHS situation. Almost a year later, when we're talking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, so I am 12 on the cusp of 13 years old throughout the summer of 1990 and 1991. I would go to the babysitters, and during the summer months, there was a kid that was about a year younger than me. His name was, oh my goodness, was his name Jesse too? I feel like it
Jesse
was
too. That's a weird name.
Yeah, Jesse too. Yeah, Evan loves that. During the summer, I would convince my babysitter and my mom that can we just walk into town and go walk and come back before your guys' day ends. So it kind of defeats the purpose of a babysitter when we would just walk during the day. We would usually go down to a small store called People's News. It was a small store that had tons of magazines and comics. Every once in a while I'd have enough money to buy a comic. And we're talking, dude, I would probably walk about, I'd say it was almost like 2 miles, maybe a mile and a half into town. We were on the outskirts of town, but still, there's sidewalks all the way in. It was neat that my mom and his mom trusted us enough to where we could go into town and come back. You weren't worried about the 11 and 12-year-old kids going into town, and as long as they didn't get into trouble, I guess. But anyway, the purpose of me telling you that story is the fact that in March of 1991, I was able to talk my mom into letting me bring my friend from school to my babysitters. And then we were going to get our hair cut because my babysitter was a barber as well. And her name was Barb. What kind of craziness is that? Didn't put that together until 35 years later. But anyway, she cut our hair and we walked to town and watched this movie. So I had this TMNT, this ninja pilgrimage, I guess is the best way to put it. We got together. We're like, all right, we're going to go. So we walked down to this theater, and the theater couldn't have been no more than a couple years old. It has since shut down as of a couple years ago, actually. So it had a good 30-some year run before actually shutting down. The theater was brand new in town, and we walked down there, got our tickets, went in and watched TMNT 2. I don't remember much about the theater experience. I clearly remember the walk. I clearly remember watching it with my buddy, but I could barely remember what it was like sitting in the theater. You'd think that would be more of a big deal. Like, hey, you're not here with your parents or anything. You're actually kind of on your own. That didn't log for some reason in my brain. But shortly thereafter, I was still kind of I was still into TMNT. I would watch it when I would come home. It would be on, I want to say it was on Fox in the afternoons. I could be wrong about that, but I would come home after school and watch the cartoon. I was still enjoying what I was seeing on TV. We talked about buying the action figures last time. I was out of buying those action figures. I was still buying G.I. Joes, but I wasn't buying TMNT. I finally had decided, okay, look, I'm sticking with one property here, and I stuck with G.I. Joe.
I had moved on to the Marvel figures by then. I would still get Ninja Turtles sometimes. They had the TMNT 2 figures that had the rubbery skin and freckles all over them.
Barely.
They had put out, because the original movie didn't have tie-in action figures, but the second and I guess third ones did. But the movie version of the action figures had more of a rubbery skin on them rather than the hard plastic of the other figures.
Oh, really? Okay.
They looked ugly to me, I guess. I don't think I ever had any of those figures, but I was still getting all the other mutants and a lot of the variants of the actual turtles. The only one I specifically remember getting was the turtle in a trench coat that had the human mask. Remember that figure?
Do not remember that figure. That sounds awesome, though.
It was pretty cool. It was the only one of the alternate turtles I remember ever having besides just the base Ninja Turtles.
All right, back to my notes. As a kid, 12 years old, I ended up getting a Nintendo when I was 10. I had to hook it up to the TV in the living room, which was a big console model TV that sat on the floor. You could put a bunch of stuff on the top of it, your VCR and everything. And then my parents had a small 13-inch color TV in their bedroom. At some point, I convinced my parents to get me a TV for my bedroom. I was able to take my Nintendo in there, hook it up. And this is happening probably around 1990 or so, maybe a little bit after that. Anyway, at some point around that time, my stepdad purchased a VHS camera. Big deal back then. You remember they freaking huge, and they took the VHS tapes, you slide them down in there and make your America's Funniest Home Videos.
Right.
I watched him hook it up to the TV one time and realized it could function as a VCR.
Right.
Now, look, if you got two TVs in your house, you are not going to have two VCRs in your house in the 1990s. But I was like, oh, crap. So I somehow started to convince them to hey, when can I use this? And I had a way of watching VHS tapes through that camera on my TV in my room. So awesome. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 reminds me of that because I remember renting it from the gas station, bringing it home and watching Turtles on the small television in my room all by myself. That's a long way of saying that brings back a lot of nostalgia to jump into this movie.
I remember we used to use ours. My brother would hook it up to our VCR and record. We would rent videos and then just record them onto a blank. I built our little home library of videos.
Brilliant. I didn't figure that out till a little while later. I was like, oh, I could actually do this. Nice. So anyway, that's all my notes on my nostalgia for this movie. I remember I dug it. I can't say at that time I really had much of an opinion on this one versus the other one. I still thought it was kind of in league with the first one. The second one, as I grew older, they definitely scaled back a lot of the violence. And I didn't understand why I say a lot of the violence, but there was still some fighting and stuff. That's what you came to watch the Ninja Turtles for. But you can see a concerted effort not to use weapons in this movie for sure. I want to give you the floor here. Any other nostalgic memories that you have with this movie? I want to hear about your theater experience, whatever you got there, man.
I was thinking about this today when I was rewatching it. I don't remember if I saw it in the theater. I probably did. The first one was a big deal because me and a bunch of friends all went to watch the first one together. So I really remember that. But the second one, I'm fairly sure I saw it in the theater, but I don't specifically remember any details about it. Feeling like, this one, I might have even liked this one a little more than the first one just because it had, Toka and Razor were in it and Super Shredder shows up at the end or whatever. Now it's pretty obvious this is the lesser of the two. But and I remember noticing that there's no swearing in this one. There's a handful of dams in the first movie. This one doesn't have any. The first time I watched it again as an adult after several years, I noticed a lot more of the cartoony sound effects. I think there was some bad response to the first one from parents about how, not like the cartoon it was and how much, it's not super violent, but there is violence in it, and stuff. So, so this one is a lot more cartoony.
I know it's mentioned in the comic, but I can't remember if it's mentioned in the movie. There's a point where Michelangelo makes a crack that he feels like he's in a Three Stooges film. And when you listen to the sound effects that you're talking about, there is definitely some parallels to like a Three Stooges short or something. Sometimes you can tell that the humor is there for that. The cartooniness is there. And when you watch this movie, it feels like they're making more of a lean towards the cartoon instead of the comics. The first one was definitely a lean toward the comics. This one is like, okay, guys, the cartoons really mega popularized this property. Let's gear it towards that. Let's sell some merch. Let's sell some figures. Let's get this going.
I was also probably disappointed. No Casey Jones, but I do remember liking Keno. Is that his name? Keno,
I think.
Keno. I still like that character. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of my notes while I was watching the film was it kind of sucks not having Casey here. I think one of the reasons why was because of the violence. I believe that's probably one of the arguments people had. The first one was a little bit too violent, and Casey Jones is all about that. So they probably were like, let's not use this character again. We'll put Keno in, and he's going to maybe identify with the kids a little bit better. And oh man, is Keno a smart mouth too? Just exactly what we want to be teaching our kids.
He was young too. Like I looked him up. I think he was born in 73. So he was not even 20 when they made this, which
wow.
At the time I thought he was an adult, basically, like a little kid.
Right.
Now it's easy to see he is really young, but
so I just, while I was getting things ready, I'd seen where you had sent over that. Is it Muay Thai boxing that he was in? So I kind of scanned through that and watched a little bit of it. Yeah, granted, it's a movie. You want to talk about quick as far as martial arts go, and he has got speed. I watched a little bit of that Muay Thai boxing match, and I was just waiting for him to like, okay, bell rings, and he's going to be Keno all of a sudden. Not the case. I mean, you got to be a little bit more methodical, but it was cool to see him actually competing. I didn't get a chance to see what year that was, but I'm assuming it was a little while after.
Yeah, his record was 3-0, I think, because I saw it on Wikipedia. Then I went to YouTube to see if any of the fights were on there. But yeah, he competed in Muay Thai in the late, I think like 98 to 99, and he had 3 matches that he won.
Wow.
And then I guess he went back to doing the film stuff. So,
well, I mean, why not? What pays more?
You're right. Something he wanted to do. He probably has been doing martial arts his whole life. He probably wanted to
see where he's at. Right.
He was good.
Yeah. Now we're going to get into the comic adaptation, and I'd love for you to restate what you said on the first one. So this is summer of 1991. This thing drops. And you said that you read this cover to cover, like over and over. Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't have the adaptation, I don't think, of the original because I don't have any memories of that one, especially the cover to the second one I specifically remember. And I had a copy of it. I definitely read it. Like I said on the last episode, once you watch it in the theater, you're waiting a while before that video comes out. The only way to relive that movie is to go through and read the comic over and over. And like with the first one, this one is pretty close to the movie. There's not a whole lot of differences as far as even the dialogue. There are some minor differences here and there, but not a whole lot. One other thing about the movie, actually, I should mention that I noticed Spawn himself, Michael Jai White, is in this movie.
I saw a comment on a YouTube video that's mentioned that, and it completely went past me.
It's weird because you only see him. He's like standing in the crowd whenever Keno is getting recruited to the foot.
Right.
And he's like with that group of people, and then they all walk off and follow the guy into the building, and he's not with them at that point. So it's like he disappeared, So he's only in like one shot for seconds. Doesn't say anything, doesn't do anything.
Well, I'm going to give the creative team here, and we'll talk about some of the stuff that happens in the book and the film and compare and contrast the two. Our creative team: script, Dean McClarain. It might be Clarrain, Dean Clarrain. Art, Jim Lawson, our returning artist, right? And then letters, Mary Kelleher. Color by Barry Grossman, and based on the screenplay by Todd Langen.
Did you also see that there was another version of this published by, similar to the first, where I guess Mirage released a version and Archie released one? Same thing here, where this, I guess we're covering the Archie version, but Tundra, which was, I think, Kevin Eastman's independent comic publishing venture he did for a while, they released a version that, from what I could tell, is the same, except it has painted colors instead of the flat colors that this one has. I saw a couple of images where the colors do look different.
Oh, wow.
Other than that, it's the same. It's got a similar, I don't know if it's the same cover. Let me see if I can pull it up again. The Tundra version has the image, like the placing of the characters is the same. I don't know if it's the same actual.
Oh, is this okay? So that looks like the cover for that one.
Yeah, there you go. It looks like it is the same, but it's maybe the painted version of what we have.
I agree. You could tell it's definitely different. Look at Toka.
Yeah, the painted version has a lot more shading and stuff. Just got painted colors instead of the colors that this one has that are a little brighter.
Okay. Well, let me get back to our book here real quick. At this time, I know you loved reading this over and over. I did not appreciate the Archie books. Just talking about Archie himself. I'm talking about like this right here. If I would have seen this in a rack at Walden Books or whatever, I never picked up Archie series stuff at all, ever. And that's kind of sad because the Mighty Mutanimals were being published out of that, if I remember correctly. They were a part of the Archie series of things. And of course, the Turtles had their own book for a long time through Archie. I just was, I'll never pick one of these up. Archie comics have this feel, and it always feels low budget. That's kind of the feeling I used to get. So when I saw this Archie Comics, Archie Adventure Series, I know it's going to be bright colors. It's going to be happy-go-lucky. Okay, this is fun time. Nobody's going to get killed here in Archie in any way. So I guess that's a warped way of looking at it. I want my violence, damn it. The Archie Adventure Series is never going to give that to me.
I don't think you were too far off on that feeling, but people do die in those Archie Turtles books.
Oh, do they? Okay.
It isn't as violent as what you were getting in Marvel or DC or even Image.
Mirage series.
Yeah, I remember there's a character that gets killed leading up to the Mutanimals. Like in the first, remember the Man Ray character? I think maybe Ray Fillet was the name of the...
Ray Fillet.
Of the character in the toy series, but in the comic he's called Man Ray. He has a sidekick character that gets killed, and I think eventually, I haven't read the issues it happens in, but I think all the Mutanimals end up dying later too.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. I've always heard that those were some good books to read. I just never got around to reading them. And back then you couldn't convince me to pick up an Archie book.
Right. I was younger than you, and I only knew of the Turtles through the cartoon and the Archie comics.
Through the Archie.
Yeah, I could get to them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you got a good point there. I found one Mirage book sitting on a department store toy shelf. It was just randomly sitting there at a Hills down here in Marietta. The Hills had no idea what was going on. They put a damn sticker price on, one of those sticker price tags on the comic book itself.
Yeah, that happened.
It was the only Mirage thing that I saw that seemed like it was just out in the wild back in the 90s. I picked it up immediately. I couldn't find the Mirage books. I didn't have a comic store to go to. And I think that was probably a big part of it. Department stores weren't carrying this stuff. People's News wasn't carrying this stuff. So, all right, here we go. Let's get into this book. So, like I said, we're in Archie Comics now. We got a colorized version of what we're going to be able to see. Right off the bat, we get to meet Keno. Archie Comics, this version here is not going to be concerned about likenesses. Keno does not look like Keno in the film. Who knows when this got written and drawn? It seemed like it was a couple months after it got released, but Keno looks like just a pizza guy. You can't tell if he's you can't tell if he's Asian or whatever. He just looks like Joe Schmo. But you can see right here at the beginning that the dialogue and the beats are very similar to what you get in the movie, which makes sense. Even the interaction with the ladies in the scooter, where he talks about how, I will dream of something thinner. And he takes off. So very faithful to the dialogue. We get our first scene where Keno runs into the Turtles at the toy shop. This is Chet's Mall. They are ransacking a radio hut, not a radio shack, but a radio hut. And he gets in there and does his whole thing. What I like about this scene is when the Turtles show up, we were just talking about how there's not much use of their weapons. Yeah. And the comic actually gives an explanation for that.
That's the movie, is it where... it's not, because they just start they just have a big brawl, sausage links. But in this instance, I think it's Leo that says the true ninja is master of his environment. And because he says that, then they put their weapons away and start using the things around them, which I thought was very cool. That is mentioned in the movie, but it's at the very end when Shredder and they're about to fight. I think Leo says it at that point, and they jump into the water. But they bring it up here right at the beginning, which it's going to be a callback in the comic later, which is pretty cool. I love the fact that they actually give an explanation here. We're looking at a panel right now. Just want to point out, no turtle weens, as far as I can tell. Don't worry, they're coming later.
Oh no! All right. Okay, so all right, so we get the battle at the radio hut. Everything falls beat for beat. Keno gets rolled up, and then Keno gets out, and they're like, call the cops, kid. They take the pizza. and they head back to April's. All right. So they're at April's. April is just showed up right before the Turtles did, and she's cleaning up the house. That scene in the movie goes a little bit further, and I think it's fine in the movie. She shows up at her apartment in the comic and sees how much of a mess her house is, and then proceeds to make the rats the cleanest one joke. Yeah. No insight on comics though here. Our last comic book, we could see that Danny was definitely reading Cerebus. You don't see that. We don't know that here, but we know in the movie she picks up a massive stack of comic books.
Were you able to decipher any of those?
So I went into it and I paused the thing and looked at a few frames and I couldn't tell.
Sure.
Evan sent something over thinking one of them was a McFarlane issue of Spider-Man with Venom on the front.
Amazing Spider-Man era.
Yeah, there was another one too. I can't remember which one it was, but I couldn't tell. I looked and paused it and looked, and I couldn't see anything. So there's comics in the movie, but I can't tell you which ones. And unfortunately, the comic is not going to shed any light on it either.
Apparently, Leonardo is the big comic book fan.
Oh, yes. That's
she attributes that pile to.
Right. Okay. So skip forward and beat for beat. The movie continues. We have the whole pizza slice thing where he tosses the pizza and Raph catches it on his side.
I really like Splinter's giving this speech about how the human world can never be ours or something, and Raphael's like, not even pizza?
Oh yeah.
Pizza's okay.
Pizza okay. All right. Thanks, Master Splinter. Give a man a heart attack. Fast forward. Here we go. We're fast forwarding to the dump. Now, we know at the end of the last movie, we talked about this in the previous episode, Shredder falls off the building in the movie and lands in a garbage truck. The comic didn't have that, but this is not a continuation of the comic. This is a continuation, an adaptation of the second movie. So we're going to have that detail here. He is in a garbage truck, and we go to the dump. And what I didn't realize is that the shack the rest of the Foot Clan are in is right by the dump. At least in the comic it is. So the Foot headquarters is right there by the dump. So when Master Shredder makes his debut in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, he don't have to walk very far.
Yeah, that's pretty convenient. They say in the movie that was their planned meetup spot, like in case things go bad or whatever, I guess. There's just the image of Shredder walking around a junkyard just in the movie. It just seems really weird, especially when he's got his big cape on.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's their backup hideout, I guess. Luckily, that's where he ends up.
Well, I've got to ask, how much time passed between parts 1 and 2?
Yeah, it seems to just be, a matter of days.
If that. Now, mind you, April O'Neil's got this nice apartment.
Yeah, where did that come from?
They're living in a nice apartment, aside from the fact that her last apartment got blown up. So that all happened pretty quickly. If time passed, if longer than that passed, Shredder's been in that garbage for a while. When he gets out of the garbage, I don't think the Foot Clan are surprised he's alive. I think they're just horrified by the smell because he comes out of there.
They're living right by the dump.
True. They should be used to it. Come on. Okay.
What a downturn. Where's the free cigs and the arcade games?
Dude, this is
really slowing.
Right. All right, so Shredder shows up, and Tatsu, who for a very quick second led the Foot Clan, is no longer leader. Shredder shows up. He goes and fixes himself up. He challenges Tatsu. Of course, Tatsu, no problem there. You're the master, whatever. Now, we get to our scene where April is talking and interviewing Professor Jordan Perry. I mentioned this to you and Evan when we were online, but there is a very weird element to the soundtrack of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Secret of the Ooze that is making people environmentally aware. And I was initially, when I listened to the soundtrack, I was like, is that what the film is about? I don't remember that part, but go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't. They do address it when she interviews him and talk about the cleanup of their toxic waste, basically, or whatever. But that's about it. It's really just that one scene.
Right. She's talking to him. They're TGRI, which when I first saw this, I was like, oh my goodness, they changed this because I'm used to TCRI. I think it's in the Mirage comics. I think it was something Cosmic something Institute. But anyway.
It's global in the movies.
Right. It stuck out to me, and I don't know why I thought TCRI. Wait a second. But anyway. Okay. So movie continues. Comic continues just fine after that. Splinter's watching the news along with the Turtles. They start to realize that TCRI or TGRI is an essential part of their origin. We find the guy that finds the big dandelion, takes it back to Shredder. Shredder gets this great idea of like, oh, we could probably use this. This is some good information. Beat for beat, things continue here. Splinter explains to them, this is the company that caused you guys to mutate. They have the Ooze, and he sends them off to go possibly find some information about this Ooze. So they are off to TGRI. The Turtles are going. I'm just basically telling you the movie at this point because that's exactly what's happening in the movie and happening in the comic. The rooftop scene in the comic versus the one in the movie, and I'm just pointing this out because we talk a lot about how sometimes when you watch the film, you get more from the film than you do from the comic. And there's the moment this is just such a small thing, but it was very noticeable to me. When they are on the roof and getting ready to go down, they're talking about let's be quiet. There might be some security or whatever. And Raph goes, let's do it. And he starts walking. And on this, almost the dialogue is exactly the same, except Raph goes, come on, let's do it. I was like, that does not hit anything like, let's do it. Nothing like.
So that's a little flavor the actor's giving you.
That's right. Right. So yeah, that stuck out.
I also noticed that the way they break in is apparently Donnie's using a credit card to get through the lock there. That's the ninja technique, I guess.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So they get down into the lab. They're looking at the computer, disposed. Oh, hey, we got one that's active. And then, within seconds after figuring that out, you see an arm with a crossbow. You don't see this very often. Number one, I don't see that weapon very often. The last time I saw that weapon was on a Road Pig figure from G.I. Joe. Road Pig actually had one of those weapons that you slapped on his wrist. But anyway, this is not in the movie. He definitely does not shoot at them.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. I wonder if that got X'd because of them trying to do less weapons and violent stuff.
Yeah, because what ends up happening in the movie, Donnie keeps trying to do something with the computer and it just enters a self-destruct phase or something and shuts down. But we have a situation where the crossbow is used and he's taking shots at him with these arrows. It kills the computer. And of course they have to dodge and get out of there. But I think you're right. It's a situation where there was weapons involved and they wanted to tone that, get that out of there. And in the comic, as far as the fight scene between the Turtles and the Foot in the lab, it's not even a page.
Yeah.
They go after the canister and then Tatsu grabs it, ninja vanish. That whole lab scene goes on forever. One guy's, oh goodness, I think Mikey or somebody's on a chair. They're yelling, "Surf's up, dude!" And another guy trips the chair. There's a whole massive fight scene, which I appreciate the movie for. But man, does it go quick in the comic? Probably got to figure out how much of the story can we tell.
They got a page count they got to worry about.
Right. As we proceed, this is the revelation of this book. Personally, I posted this on Facebook today because I've watched this movie at least 10 times. I watched it last night, and when Splinter is introducing the Turtles to Keno, he's telling them their names are Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael. Then Michelangelo makes this wisecrack that he gets in trouble for. I could never figure out what he was saying. I always thought he was saying, only the good ones want to know. And I was like, that makes no sense. Why did he get in trouble for that? No, not only the good ones want to know is what I thought he was saying. Not all the good ones end in O, which makes so much more sense. And 34 years later, I'm sitting here and I finally read this panel and I'm like, actually, I had to read this comic twice. It was a second read through where I caught that and I'm like, is that the holy grail of a line that I've been trying to figure out in this movie for so long?
It doesn't work in the comic because he doesn't say all their names, right?
No, he doesn't. He just talks about who they are and then,
Or maybe it's more clever in the comic because you have to figure out what he means by, oh, yeah. Raphael's name doesn't end in O.
Sometimes I think this comic gets a little bit too clever, and I'm going to point out one spot later that made me go, oh, wait a second. They're doing something on purpose. And I don't know if kids reading Archie Comics is even going to know. But yeah, this right here I mean, this is why I do this podcast. It's for moments like this where I get to one panel in a comic. The universe came together for 1 second. All right. Oh my gosh. Turtleween.
I told you it was coming.
I didn't see it. Wait a second. Oh, it is over there.
Yeah, he doesn't. It's weird though. Like after a while, he remembered, oh, I got to put those tails in there.
That is strange. All right. Cut to the junkyard dump. Shredder and Tatsu have the professor as prisoner at this point. Shredder wants him to use the ooze to change the snapping turtle and wolf into the massive mutants he hopes they would become. Only thing I really want to point out here is this contraption is way more elaborate and makes so much more sense compared to just running a hose and dumping it into a shed.
Did they force him to cobble together this machine out of junkyard parts like Tony Stark or something?
Right. The one thing that I was sitting there going like, oh, there's a freaking shower head that's showering. This makes so much more sense now because it's actually bathing him in the ooze. Just pointing out, it looks pretty good. All right. Oh, well.
I was disappointed back then. I don't know why they had to use a new turtle instead of Slash, because Slash already existed as a figure and maybe in the cartoon. Instead, they did Toka. I was just kind of annoyed by that back then. They only showed up briefly, I think, in one of the later seasons of the cartoon. They don't show up much outside of the Secret of the Ooze movie. They were in a handful of issues of the IDW comic. Mm-hmm. They're like giant. They're not like, I think they're not like quite kaiju size, but
oh wow,
huge monsters in the IDW comic.
Oh wow, I had no idea. Speaking of being upset, we'll tie this right into exactly what you're talking about here. Were you upset we didn't get Bebop and Rocksteady?
Yeah, probably, because they're like, they were the original mutants outside of the Turtles. They were the original bad guy mutants and stuff.
Right.
And, we wouldn't see them until the second Michael Bay movie.
Right. Yeah. Did you hear about why?
I'm assuming it's one of those things where they were created for the toy line, maybe.
Yep.
They didn't have the rights.
You're exactly right. I was reading a CBR article, and it was because of licensing issues. He says, despite claims that TMNT co-creator Peter Laird created Bebop and Rocksteady while brokering a deal with Playmates, Laird didn't actually create Bebop and Rocksteady so much as commission their creation. It sounds like these guys didn't have any connection with those two.
Yeah.
And couldn't use them in the movie. So, yeah, I remember being a little miffed because we weren't using what I was used to in the cartoon. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, we got Toka and Razor, which I'm not going to complain. All right, beat for beat, as the movie continues, the guys find the underground subway and the cars and what is soon to become their turtle lair, which, by the way, I didn't want to bother you and Evan so much yesterday, but I live tweeted this with chat. Not on Twitter. I went to ChatGPT and was just talking with ChatGPT the whole time and talking about the movie and just like putting quotes in there and when watching one. But I asked it, I said, is this actually possible? Is it possible to have a full open big space like this down under New York? And they said, yes, it is very possible because there's so many like abandoned subway lanes and stuff, subway tunnels. So yes, it's possible.
This is the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. I've seen it in other movies since then. They basically find an abandoned subway car in this big open tunnel space, and that's where they make their new lair. I thought that was so cool when I was a kid.
Oh, same here, dude. And I asked ChatGPT also, I said, how they got electric? Who's paying the electric bill? Their suggestion, they gave me 3 or 4 suggestions, and the one I went with was Donnie hack the grid.
Yeah, that seems to be the easiest way for them.
And then Donnie walking around with a payphone under his arm, calling people.
Like a cell phone.
Right. But anyway, okay, so we get here. Now, this is at the point where we only got 3 turtles that find the turtle lair. Raph walks off because he's mad. He's trying to figure out a way. They need to do something about Shredder. What are we doing going around playing Century 21, if I remember correctly, is the quote. So Raph is off, and he is talked to Keno, and Keno and him are going to infiltrate the Foot Clan. And here's the scene you were talking about where they got to get him in the Foot Clan, and there's bells posted all over this dummy. Is like, you got to get all these bells and you can't make a sound, and Raph kind of jumps in and helps him and pulls all these bells. So I want to stop here because you mentioned that earlier. Do you have something you want to say?
I was just going to point out that they have something you don't see in a lot of Marvel DC stuff. I think you did in the past, but they probably make it a point to clean that up now, where they got the arrows kind of showing you which direction to read it. And a lot of the old TMNT books, I think, had a lot, which Jim Lawson worked on, would do that from time to time.
Yeah. And we get the point where, successful. He pulled all the bells off. Keno's not holding him in this, but they're all laying on the ground. And so he's passed the test. But problem is that we get to where Toka and Razor are finally born. Shredder, I am your master. My mama. Great bit. Then we get the whole babies. They're babies. Perfect. He's, our doctor's trying to make a case for him. They're infants. What do you expect?
Shredder has no time for it. He just wants to kill them immediately.
It's like, make sure they're disposed of. And Professor Perry's like, wait a second. Come on. These are actually living things. Let's not be so hasty. Toka and Razor are born. They're out. The next day, Raph and Keno are trying to make their way into the Foot Clan to try again to get some information, possibly take them down. Well, they get caught. And lo and behold, it's Raph versus the whole Foot Clan. He gets his butt handed to him and gets captured. Just, sort of like the first movie.
He's not beaten into a coma like he was last time.
Right. This time they're going to tie him up and make him watch his brothers die, which, that's pretty rough. So Raph's caught. The other turtles get wind of it. Keno escapes and lets them know. The other three, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Leonardo, are going into the Foot Clan compound. There's a joke that happens in the movie that does not, the joke doesn't even happen here. As they're going in, as Donatello, well, that was easy. Yeah, a little too easy.
Yeah, I'm annoyed that they didn't use the joke.
Yeah, that was perimeter's quiet, a little too quiet, and then they don't do the hey, there's Raph, a little too Raph.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a letdown.
I think maybe it's before they reveal Toka and Razor. There's a scene in the comic that I don't remember from the movie where it shows April on TV trying to get answers from one of the
somebody else. Right. No, that's not in there.
Yeah, which I guess doesn't really do much. Like, it's just kind of the same thing again of her getting stonewalled.
Yeah.
I also wanted to point out this because I have a kind of a story. They're in the movie to show how strong they are. The doctor has them lift a tractor, I think, or a bulldozer, maybe.
Oh yeah.
And in the movie, they're tossing an engine block around.
In the comic?
Sorry, the comic, which is kind of funny. And it reminded me of Toka's got a tail hanging down there, too.
Oh, look at that.
But we don't see it between his legs, thankfully. A friend of mine he told me a story about this, I guess, mutual friend. He's not really my friend, but he has a friend he grew up with that he told me a story about that he was big into Dragon Ball Z and he was just out playing. He was young, probably like 12 or 13 at the time. And he was going Super Saiyan, which I don't know anything about Dragon Ball Z, but I guess that's when they get real powerful or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
He tried to lift this engine block in his dad's garage or backyard or something, and he broke his arm.
You're kidding. Jeez, criminy, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a lesson learned. I was expecting he got a hernia or tore his abdomen or something like that. No, dude broke his arm. Well, you learn something new every day. He learned you can't pick up Super Saiyan or not.
Right.
You're not going to pick up an engine block. That's a rough story. Okay. All right. Turtles have been captured. Raph is sitting there watching his brothers get hauled over to a bed of spikes. And I never understood this. I don't think anybody in the audience under the age of 13. There's a joke about Ralph Nader and this net.
That's not in the movie, though, right?
No, it's in the movie.
Oh,
there's a freaking Ralph Nader comment. Remind me to write a note to Ralph Nader. And I'm like, what? I've heard the name, but what is this?
I never would have picked up on it.
I didn't even know till last night. Who is Ralph Nader? I knew the name, but what is he?
Right.
And it turns out he is like
a figure of some sort.
Correct. But I think one of the things that he was very famous for, he was instrumental in making sure that products that were created met certain safety standards.
Oh, okay.
And therefore, that's where it's like, oh, this net is well constructed. I was like, what a joke. Even if the parents got it, they were just like, well, you know what? I need to go get some popcorn. Now, this was a great moment in this comic. There's a few great moments in the comic. And the moment where the Turtles get saved by Splinter, right before they get over the bed of spikes. In the movie, you see the bow notch the arrow and the arrow flies and it hits the rope and breaks the rope. Therefore, the net releases the turtles before they get to the spikes.
Yeah.
When that happens, Splinter yells cowabunga.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. In the book, he doesn't say it. He thinks it, which is awesome.
I don't get it. Yeah, I don't know why. And that's the only word or thought bubble, I think, in the whole comic.
Right? This is the only, and I thought it was epic. I was like, dude, that puts Splinter on some extra level. He doesn't even have to say it. He's just like cowabunga. He's bought in. He knows now. He is bought into this lifestyle, into this vibe. I thought it was cool. I love the fact that he's just thinking it and he's not saying it out loud. But the movie, you have to hit the joke. Like he hits the joke right there. This doesn't make it a joke. This makes it like badass, in my opinion. So I'm all right with that. Now, again, beat for beat, we get a fight at the junkyard. Turtles escape. They get down into the lair. They rescue the professor. Toka gets stuck in the sewer. Tickle, tickle, tickle. All that fun stuff. We definitely get a great fight scene here in the comic, which is, I love it. Then as the message is delivered, I think this is the part where there's a lot that happens in the movie and the comic in between here. They come up with the antidote. The Foot deliver a message and tell April to go deliver it and say, hey, we're going to turn these guys loose. They get turned loose on a city block at night. And then Shredder's like, if you guys don't show up at a certain place at a certain time, then we're turning Toka and Razor loose in Central Park. And they're like, okay, well, so then they get to working with the professor. They make the antidote. We learn that the antidote has to be ingested. So they come up with this great plan, and that is to put it into donuts. They're going to feed the donuts with the traditional pre-fight donut is what it's called. And
Shredder sees no issue with this whatsoever.
Footer like, yes, that's exactly what we need to do. Why haven't we been doing this the whole time? We need to have a pre-fight donut. They watch as the turtles start to feed Toka and Razor these donuts. Now, this is the point. This is the point in the comic. Right before they get there, just as they're showing up, this is where this comic gets a little too cute. Well, I say too cute. That sounds like a bad thing. I thought it was awesome. They are walking, and this joke is made in the movie. Somebody says, you think it'll work? Talking about their plan with the donuts. Oh, yeah. And Donatello says, is like Schwarzenegger hard to spell? And they completely misspelled it in the comic.
Oh, really?
Yes, that is spelled wrong. There's a T in there, and it's not supposed to be there. There's no T in Schwarzenegger.
Perfect.
You guys got me there. That was a good one. Now, we get the battle between the Foot. I should say Toka, Razor. We get them to eat the donuts, and one of them gets tossed through a wall, and they end up at the Dockside Club. And yes.
Perfect place for a nightclub.
Vanilla Ice. Well, like I said, likenesses.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
I'm sure they knew that he was going to be in the movie when they made it. So,
all right. The Vanilla Ice concert is an epic of, it's just an epic 90s moment. Early 90s. Vanilla Ice is coming off of Ice Ice Baby being the hottest thing ever in 1990. It was 1990 when that was released, I believe.
Okay. So he's at the peak of his powers.
Yeah. To the Extreme was the name of the album. I had it. I listened to it. I could probably, you start like maybe 3 seconds of every song on that album, and I could continue them for another 15. So he was definitely at the peak. Now, when we say the peak, we're talking about the peak of a cliff, because shortly thereafter, it is just a straight line down to the bottom. A lot of people lose interest in Vanilla Ice very quickly. But yeah, here he is in this comic. This actually was the moment that I was really looking for in this adaptation. I was wanting to see, like, how are they going to handle the concert scene, because number one, it's a 3 or 4 minute music video in the middle of this movie,
right? Which
is great. I have no complaints. Back then, it's still a fun time. You got to watch, the Turtles kick some Foot Clan butt. You get to watch Vanilla Ice up there dancing and singing. I wanted to know what these lyrics were going to be, and I want to read them right here. I'm not going to rap them, because I think the way I'm closing this podcast out is I am definitely putting in the song that I created through Suno that has these lyrics in it, but I will read them for anybody's listening pleasure in case they want to skip the AI generated song at the end. All right. So who is this? Raph? Raph gets his butt handed to him by Razor. He lands at the Dockside Club, and we immediately cut to Vanilla Ice in what appears to be a Marty McFly vest and some jeans with a very white-haired flat top. Start off saying this, later change to that, giving you big diss. Okay, just put that like that. Those are I know what they mean, sort of, but as far as the rapping goes, no. So check out my treasure, a bleached white measure through sampling pleasure. Hey, I'm under pressure. Now, do you get that reference by chance?
He infamously stole the Under Pressure riff for his Sights Baby.
Correct.
And then he tried to defend himself on one of the late night shows, I think, to hilarious effect.
Yeah, he said it wasn't dun 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 dun. It was dun 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 dun. It's like, no, dude. All right. Anyway, that doesn't stop it there, though, because a few panels later, we get some more rapping to finish things out here. Oh, yeah. I mean, because this is the ninja rap. I mean, what else is going to happen? But boy, now, dude, I've read this comic at least twice fully already. I'm going through it a third time, and now I can't escape Turtleween. Like every single, now I have to see it.
I think the first you really see it when they jump on stage. Right there. That's the first real good look.
Good, dude. We got some DJ on the wheels of steel back here. Swoop, 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 cowabunga, cowabunga. And then Vanilla Ice. No, wait a second. We'll just call this guy Shredded Ice. I don't know. Well, it looks kind of weird, but it's plain to be seen. The bad guys wear black and the good guys wear green. Oh, excuse me. The good guys be green. I'm going to have to change up my lyrics because I don't think I got these right. Yeah, they play kind of funky. Now, this was stuck out like my main man, Spunky. All right, then. And they pump up the jam, which was a very good song back in the 90s. And the bad guys be spam. I am inspired. All right. The Vanilla Ice concert, great. The Under Pressure stuff, we talked about it. Oh, yeah. And then, of course, I forgot to end this song. Ninja Rap.
Oh, yeah.
Ninja Rap.
I prefer the way Leo and Raph deal with
Tatsu.
Tatsu, whatever. You know, in the movie, they all four give him a shell shock.
Yes,
they
do.
It's sort of a double punch to the head from just two of them. It looks cool. It's one of the better panels in the comic.
Much more effective. All right. Things progress. Shredder shows up on stage. I've got a whole canister. Get ready. You guys are going to face a bunch more mutants. Keno shows up, just like in the movie. Able to distract Shredder. He doesn't actually kick it out and
it plays out a little bit differently.
Shredder gets knocked down. He loses the canisters. Professor Perry picks it up and he's like, see you later. Shredder grabs the unwitting young lady and has one small vial of the ooze left. Threatens to pour it on her. And Donatello gets the idea of turning up the volume. It was a keytar, if I remember correctly, in the movie. I don't think it's a keytar here. It's an actual guitar. Gee with a G. Explodes the speaker, Marty McFly style. Boy, I don't know how many Back to the Future references I want to make, but I'm going to make a few. The speaker sends him flying.
I mean, these are the only two instances I've ever seen that happen. It was in Back to the Future and TMNT 2.
Sends Shredder flying into the Hudson River, I believe, is where we're at here. So he gets launched through the skylight of this club into the river. Toga and Razor, they are back to their return to normal. It's probably the best way to say it. They've had their antidote. They're no longer mutants. This happens a little bit differently. I mean, the end of it's still the same, but they run into him on the pier up top, and then something happens that causes them to fall below. But Super Shredder gets this moment in this comic where he is just like that panel right there. He's massive. He looks awesome here. They end up going below the pier and fighting, very much like the movie. He's taking out parts of the pier. The pier falls down. Turtles are fine because they've jumped into the water. They live as the pier crashes down around Shredder. Nobody could have survived that. Nobody. But sure enough, Shredder's hand comes up out of there for a quick second, and then he's dead. Now, here's the thing. Here's the problem I have. Shredder got compacted in a garbage truck, and this is supposed to kill Super Shredder? I mean, he was left for days, possibly weeks in the dump, got out of that, came back here, and then takes some mutagen, and then ends up dying.
He's Super Shredder.
He's dead.
A lot of sense. In the movie, the mutagen also affected his blades, apparently. Yeah. Gave him extra blades,
right?
Helmet.
Yeah, somehow his armor got mutated in some way. But yeah, honestly, what you wanted to see was the Turtles throw down against Shredder. You're just waiting for him to go at it. You don't get that satisfactory resolution. He falls, gets covered up by a bunch of wood, and he's dead. Fairly anticlimactic, but again, it seems like it's probably parents that are like, tone back the violence, please.
Yeah, it could be.
Nobody can survive that. And sure enough, Shredder does not. He is dead. All right. And we get the ending where they head back to the turtle lair. Splinter says, "Were you seen?" And of course, they deny every bit of it. He holds up the paper that says, "Ninja Rap is born," with a photo of one of the turtles. What we don't get, though, is "I made another funny."
Yeah.
Do not get that in the comic. And there you go. That is the book. That is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze adaptation. Anything I missed, anything that comes to mind? We've been talking for quite a while. At least I have, and I apologize if I've been overrunning things. But is there anything I missed? Anything that you wanted to bring up?
No, I think we covered it. The only other thing specifically about the movie, I guess, which I forgot to mention earlier, Ernie Reyes Jr. was Donatello in the first movie in the suit.
Yes.
Which is kind of cool. And then he upgraded to being an actor in the second one.
Yeah.
And of course, we get a new actress playing April O'Neil.
Paige Turco.
And I believe she's in the third one as well, right?
She is, yes.
I don't see it as a step down or up. I like both of these.
Yeah, not up. There was somebody had made a comment about how like Judith Hoag's representation of April seemed like a more streetwise reporter, while Paige Turco's interpretation seemed a little bit more soft. Is probably about the only thing that they could say, and I could kind of see that. My wife, though, different story. My wife had a very visceral reaction, like, I don't like this one because April O'Neil is not April. They got a new girl for April O'Neil, and that came up twice. She said that twice. That's how upset she was about it as we watched this. Real funny story about the wife, and I think I told you guys, but I'll share it with our audience. He had never seen the second Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and when I started the movie, I was really excited about, like, well, wow, she's never seen this. There's going to be some fun stuff in here. And then it hit me. We have Ninja Rap in this movie. And our local wrestling promotion has a very athletic wrestler, one of the top wrestlers in the promotion. His name is Facade, and he comes out to the Ninja Rap. Nice. So she's very familiar with the song because it's go ninja, go, right? I mean, that's catchy as all hell. So when he's walking out to that, the whole gymnasium is yelling that. They're screaming, go ninja. So the wife knows the song. And I start to realize, holy crap, she's going to learn. Not only is that song from this movie from 1991, she's also going to learn that the Vanilla Ice. She loved him back then. And it's so funny. I asked her, can you believe that? She's like, I thought Facade had that song made. So when he, I was like, no, it was Vanilla Ice coming out.
Classic.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's a classic. So speaking of the soundtrack, all right, I immersed myself this past week, and I am going to give a very quick, I promise it won't take very long, but I want you, Chris Armstrong, never to have to listen to the soundtrack. So I'm going to run down the songs and give you like a couple sentences for each one. I could not remember the artist last episode. Ya Kid K is the name of the singer that did Spin That Wheel on the first soundtrack. And this soundtrack has an opener by Ya Kid K called Awesome, You Are My Hero. It's a high energy tribute to the Turtles. And there's some light environmental messages in this very opening song. There is a lyric that goes, keep it green and keep it clean. Remember that. Keep it green and keep it clean. Track 2 goes without saying. Ninja Rap by Vanilla Ice. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go. Then we get track 3 by a lady by the name of Kathy Dennis. It's called Find the Key to Your Life. It stands apart from the rest of the soundtrack. It has some reflective lyrics and a gentle pop melody. It's definitely a little bit different. Then we have Tribal House. It's pure dance floor adrenaline from the 90s. It's called Move, MOOV, exclamation point. Then we have Dan Hartman, track 5, Consciousness. That's a song about personal growth. And when you listen to it, there is a Prince element to it. If you like Prince, you're going to say, oh, that sounds a little bit like Prince. Then we have the Magnificent Seven with the next track called This World. And it is definitely a song that has very, very environmentally forward lyrics. along with some politics in there too. Talks about war, it talks about apathy, there's calls to action in it, all this other stuff. Creatures of Habit by Spunkadelic, which, by the way, it was hard for me to find lyrics for probably about half this album.
I can't imagine.
You can't find them anywhere. So I had to rely on YouTube's transcription.
Oh, yeah.
Which did a fairly decent job. But anyway, Spunkadelic with Creatures of Habit highlights how we repeat destructive patterns and urges unity and awareness to change course and save the planet. Then we have Back to School by Fifth Platoon. And this is the one I was telling you that opens up with these guys. It's got this street corner vibe. Hey, man, what's up? What's going on? I don't know, man. They haven't been treating Earth very well. So yeah, it feels really bad, really, really bad. And then the last two are some of my favorites because I think the first soundtrack had something on it by Orchestra on the Half Shell. And really all it is just a bunch of scratching stuff put together with quotes from the movie. So it's the Turtles just yelling, surf's up, dude. And all this stuff. And it's just 90s overpowered, a lot of different movie quotes. That's good. And then the final one is called the Toka and Razor Monster Mix, another orchestra on the Half Shell. It starts out mega serious. It sounds like a Shredder soundtrack, like Shredder walked into the room, boom, boom, it's got that kind of seriousness feel to it. And then you hear Shredder go, Toka, Razor, come to me. And he goes, go, have fun, play. And then it turns into like this Jamaican island tune. And all you hear is you hear Toka and Razor just tearing crap up and laughing in the background. Master, say play. And they just go off. And then that's the end. So anyway, there you go. You never have to listen to the soundtrack. I did it for you. It's all there. Let's pick a panel and let's get out of here.
I got one.
Okay, go ahead.
I can see the page numbers on this one, unlike the last two. So page 36, the final panel. It's Toka stuck in the sewer, the manhole, and see him up top with Shredder saying he's stuck. And we also, at the bottom of the panel, we see Underground. And it looks like Raphael is giving him the itchy coo tickling his feet. At the bottom. That's my favorite panel of the issue.
That's a good pick. My favorite, I talked about a little bit. It's Super Shredder standing on the pier with the turtles in front of him. I don't know if we got that in the movie. I can't remember. We just see the imposing figure of...
I think he pulls him underneath, and then we see him under the pier.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kevin Nash is definitely standing there and wreaking havoc. But we don't get that awesome city skyline in the background. And Shredder just standing there before the four turtles. Massive, like, holy crap, what are they going to do? So anyway, there you go. My goodness, Chris Armstrong, we did
it. We've done it.
I can't wait. This was a fun discussion. This took me back. We are going, our next venture. Boy. That's uncharted territory for you, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. I remember watching part of the third movie on VHS with my cousin and thinking it wasn't very good. I don't remember if I watched the whole thing or not. Decades later, I bought the DVD set that has all four movies, the first three and the CGI
animated
art. And my intention was to watch all four of them. And about 20 minutes or maybe 30 minutes into part three, I gave up. It was too bad.
I'm here to tell you.
I'm going to soldier through this time so I can compare it to the comic.
I can't wait. I'm very excited. I can tell you that your instincts were probably correct because it is not the greatest. I think I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 for the first time at college, freshman year in 96. And I was like, holy crap, it's the Turtles going back in time. So I should love this. You'll hear more about how disappointed I was when we talk about it next go round. Maybe the comic adaptation fills in some stuff. Maybe the script was so chopped up. The movie that we got was not the greatest, but the script was a gem. Maybe that's what we'll find out. I've got a week to hope. I've got to find the soundtrack and be disappointed with that. I guarantee it. I'm going to be disappointed with whatever is on that because it isn't going to be anyway.
There wasn't a hot gimmick rapper in '93. I don't think.
All right. Well, let's get out of here. Chris Armstrong, what do you got going on over in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, I do another couple of movie podcasts with my buddy AJ. We do small screeners where we talk about direct-to-video and made-for-TV movies. And we also do one called Because Movies where we talk about whatever movie stuff we wanted to cover. They've both been on hiatus this year. They're both coming back in the summertime. So you can check out those feeds, Small Screeners and Because Movies.
Love it.
On your podcaster of choice.
Yes. As for me, I've got 3 podcasts. We've got the Unspoken Issues podcast where we discuss 90s comics, and can't thank Chris Armstrong coming on here and talking Turtles with me, talking the Turtles movies, and for the torture that he's about to embark on here with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. You can go back in the archive. You can find us on YouTube. We're at over 100 episodes here for Unspoken Issues. And then, of course, the Source Material Comics podcast, which talks about comics of any era. Myself and Mark Radlich just finished up She-Hulk, and then we're going to be heading back to, my goodness, Charming. And we're going to be talking more Sons of Anarchy, Redwood Original, which is actually not a bad book. I don't think we hated it, but it wasn't what we were expecting. So if you're a Sons of Anarchy fan, tune in. I think there's 3 episodes of that going to be going on. And Evan Bevins get together and we discuss Marvel Snap. If you play Marvel Snap on your mobile device, then we have a podcast for you. 20 minutes an episode usually, and I air about 4 or 5 of them in 1 week. If you're interested in that, check that out. It's going to be on the feed. Just go to the Source Material YouTube. You should be able to find it. Over there is Chris Armstrong. I am Jesse Starcher. You have the floor. How do you want to end this one, Chris
Jaka.
Thanks for joining us. Unspoken Issues is part of the UnspokenDecade.com, the home for 90s comics, blogs, and podcasts. Unspoken Issues also has a Facebook group you can join if you are interested. Just search the Unspoken Issues podcast and request to join. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.
Yeah. Start off saying this, later change to that, giving you big diss. So check out my treasure, a bleached white measure through sampling pleasure. Hey, I'm under pressure. Cowabunga, 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 cowabunga. Yeah, well it looks kinda weird, but it's plain to be seen. The bad guys were black and the good guys be green. Yeah, they play kinda funky like my main man Spunky. They pump up the jam and the bad guys be spam. Cowabunga, 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 cowabunga. Ninja rap, ninja rap, ninja rap, ninja rap, ninja rap, ninja rap.